Well, whether or not the Conservative Party is about to go back into a period of internecine warfare, all will be revealed over the course of the next few days. But we tend to obsess a bit about the Conservative Party in the media, although, of course, they rather obsess about themselves. Maybe we don't pay enough attention to Sir Keir Starmer and what he's doing in the Labour Party. Now, I want to give him 10 out of 10 for booting out Jeremy Corbyn. That, I think, is a very, very smart move. Corbyn contributed more to that 80-seat majority for Johnson than anyone's ever given him credit for. I think a lot of people in the Midlands and the North just couldn't stand it, didn't feel that he was patriotic, felt that he'd been too close to the IRA and, frankly, didn't support the British Army. So Starmer's been in a good place, but he's never actually given us any policies. Well, this week he's going to. And today, there he was at the National Farmers Union. Yes, of all places, Labour and the rural economy. Interesting. Here's a quick clip of what Starmer had to say earlier on today.
Nearly 60% of the food we consume. Renewable energy for 10 million homes. Custodians of 70% of our land. And, of course, 4 million jobs. And then there's net zero. A monumental challenge for this industry. But one that you've run towards. Net zero by 2040 across England and Wales is tough. But it's right.
That was Keir Starmer at the National Farmers Union. I'm joined by Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror. Kevin, farming, the rural community, rural crime, not traditionally things that Labour would be associated with being very strong on.
No, but if you go back to 1979, 2 in 5 of the seats Labour won in that Tony Blair landslide were rural or semi-rural seats. And what he's doing now, he's kind of going back to that playbook, and he thinks, like, it's like his tanks on the Tory lawn. He's putting these tractors on the Tory fields.
Yes, I guess Worcester Woman was kind of market town, small city.
And he's broadening out the appeal. And he said to farmers today, where, by common consent, he went down better than Mark Spencer, the government, the Conservative Environment Secretary, because he said, look, too often in the past, farming, rural communities have been an afterthought. So he admitted Labour hadn't always got it right, and then he came up with a few policies that they were like, such as half the food bought by public bodies will be grown in Britain, which is a big market, billion plus.
Well, actually what he said was more specific than that, to be fair. He said 50% of the food that would be procured by public bodies would be local and sustainable.
Yeah.
There's one slight problem there, Kevin Maguire. That kind of food's very expensive.
Yes, well, I think that's... the truth is...
great, but go and buy organic for your weekly shop, and it's a lot of money.
And as you know, Nigel, Brexit also made some food imports more expensive.
Well, it should have made them cheaper, but that's a separate row. It should have made them cheaper.
We'll have that row another time.
Because we could have bought stuff from all over the world. I mean, he said that the government had given up on farmers. I do think, I mean, fishing is a separate issue entirely, but I do think there is a feeling since Brexit this government doesn't quite know exactly what it wants to do.
And he's picking away at that. You mentioned fishing, right? You know the state. I mean, you go angling, you know the state of rivers and the sewage discharges, what's happening to chalk streams and so on.
Yeah.
So Labour say, right, you need bigger penalties to clean up that water. He goes to farming.
Good. I get it with the environment and with the fishing industry. You know, the Tories have not delivered. But it's these specifics. Rural crime. Which it doesn't get talked about a lot. You know, we hear about knife crime in London. Actually, there's a substantial amount of very, very serious aggravated burglary, etc. going on. And Starmer there promising an extra 13,000 police
I think
for rural Britain. But again, it gets said, but it's totally uncosted.
Yeah, well, Yvette Cooper came up with a way of costing it, which I've no doubt will be picked apart. But nevertheless, it's that intention to tackle the problem. And when you've been in power for 13 years, as the Conservatives have, if there's a problem, why haven't you solved it earlier? Or did you actually create it? And people will look at Labour and they will look at Starmer if they think he's somebody who is grappling with their problems and he's coming up with some of the answers.
Well,
it means he'll get a blank cheque.
It may work, but he also said today, quite specifically, to the farming community and the food import and export business, a closer relationship with the European.
I thought you'd have picked up our friends in the European Union, he said. That's the bit I thought you'd have picked.
Well, they can be friends on a good day. But here's the point. I mean, here's the point about that. Is he talking about going back to some type of common agricultural policy? What does he actually mean?
No, I think what he means is, for instance, if you export to the European Union, in many cases you need vet certifying whatever you're exporting, certainly meat, and he wants to end that very expensive bureaucracy. So it's not just Northern Ireland where there is a problem, which Rishi Sunak was attempting to resolve, but I think he's going to be too weak and he's going to be defeated by the DUP and the
that's
ERG.
going to be, I mean, that's going to be very interesting, certainly. But
if you're Starmer and you have a different approach and you haven't got a record of hostility to the European Union members, you have a better chance of getting a deal going forward.
If you agree...
To some extent,
to
yes.
go along with all of their rules.
To some extent, yes. That you will have.
So you surrender the ability.
You'll have to mirror their rules. Now,
yeah.
I believe you disagreed. I believe the best deal was when we were in. We're not in now. You've got to try and make the best of it.
But if we mirror, if this is the precursor to what's coming on Thursday, and on Thursday there is a major speech coming from Starmer, the 5 key policy areas, sort of, in a sense, going down the same route that Sunak went down. I mean, are we going to see, and I've no doubt this phrase about our relationship with Europe will crop up again on Thursday. Are we going to see specific policy on Thursday, or doesn't he need to do that at this stage? Can he avoid specifics at this stage?
I think he can when the government is doing so badly and the Conservatives are tearing themselves apart. He's going to come out with these 5 national mission statements on the economy, health, education, crime and the environment. You can get some old policies he's announced, he can dress them down again, he can talk about them, but he's addressing those areas of people's concerns. All areas where he can show the government has failed. Now, at some point, he will have to prove how Labour would succeed. But I think at this point, this stage in the argument, you don't have to necessarily come up with all your best policies. Because if you fire the shots now, what are you going to do for the next 18 months?
Oh, I'll tell you what would happen if he did it now. The Tories would just copy every single one of them.
If they're capable of doing that, actually, Nigel. But if we go back to Brexit, though, you should be happier as a Leaver than me as a Remainer, because Starmer has said if Labour not be in the single market, not be... bringing back free movement, won't return to the customs union. 3 things I always think will benefit the British economy.
When I hear that, I'm pleased. But when I see meetings at Ditchley between the upper echelons of New Labour and elements of the Conservatives, I'm concerned. Final thought, Kevin. We know the Conservatives are doing very badly indeed. Yeah. There's been no Rishi bounce of any kind at all. Boris is sharpening his knives. You can see it a blooming mile off. The Northern Ireland protocol, I doubt they'll be as brave as, for cabinet resignations. I doubt that. But there'll still be a big rebellion. There'll still be a big, big rebellion. The Tories are doing badly. Is Starmer doing well?
I think he's beginning to. I think he's been lucky, particularly over Johnson destroying himself with parties. Then you had the Truss nightmare. Sunak comes in, can't get a grip. All that's played to his advantage, as is what's happening in Scotland, where Nicola Sturgeon going and the SNP tearing itself apart now. Will gain Labour.
I mean, that was Starmer's birthday.
I think he's beginning to find his feet, and he's going to the centre ground. That's where he's going. He sees where the voters are.
I've given him marks. I've given him full marks for getting rid of Corbyn. Let's see what comes on Thursday. Yeah. It'll be aspirational, not much detail.
I think you're right. He'll be painting a vision in primary colours, but if you look for the detail, I think you need a
vision in primary colours. Thank you, Kevin Maguire. Well, as we say, it's going to be a big day. I think Thursday is a very important day. I kind of get the point that Kevin Maguire just made, that maybe he is just beginning to do a bit better. Charisma, personality, there isn't much, but maybe that's what people want these days. I don't know.